things were a little bit quieter in Los Angeles, at least in terms of the protests, not in terms of ICE raiding schools, arresting people at courts, whatnot. I mean, they are ongoing. We have more military coming in, despite the fact that California is now suing the federal government for its federalization of the National Guard. Here is Pete Hegseth. He is at the House Oversight Subcommittee on Defense. This is just a coincidence. I mean, he was due to testify in front of these committee hearings, both this and I believe in part because of the budget stuff that they're working on, but also just sort of in the due course of things. He's going to be talking to a couple other committees this week.
This is the second time this has happened. Don't you remember when Tulsi Gabbard was in front of it was a coincidental hearing, and that's when Signalgate had just broken, I believe? Yes.
Now, we don't have any clips of Hegseth being asked yet about his own Signalgate. Mm-hmm. And then the subsequent NSA spying gate that was associated in who they fired,
right,
for supposedly leaking about his use of Signal. And it turns out that there was an internal lie about whether they had been wiretapped. We will have those clips for you likely tomorrow. In the meantime, here is Hegseth explaining the circumstance where he feels he can send in the military. Under what circumstances, and understand, people have been saying this for a long time. This is playing out very much like the, people who have been concerned about Trump's authoritarianism and fascism said. I mean, really, since the day that Pete Hegseth was nominated, people said the reason why Trump is doing this is because Esper in his first term and the generals were reluctant to put military on the streets in the United States to attack civilians. And the other piece of speculation was that this is the way they were going to do this. They were going to go in, they were going to do mass roundups of people, of undocumented immigrants, of documented immigrants, of immigrants who are in the process of seeking documentation, people who have been in this country for, in some instances, decades, a whole raft of people who are not citizens. Now, citizens have been swept up because they made the mistake of going around being all Latino.
Right.
But, and not only citizens of this country, but people who are visiting were accidentally, because they also made the mistake. I saw this in New York just the other day, making the mistake of speaking Spanish and looking Latino can get you swept up by by ICE
in New York City.
In New York City,
this level of bigotry is just really horrible. And I think
Hysteria.
about all our Latino friends, brothers and sisters who walk around with fear or walk around with their papers or can't speak Spanish in public. It's disgusting what this country is doing to you right now.
Now, to be fair, they've also rolled up a couple of white immigrants. So, they're
Middle Eastern immigrants also
Middle Eastern,
being targeted.
oh, yes. I mean, of course. I mean, everybody who's brown is definitely high on the list. But they have rolled up a couple of, I think, of European immigrants, et cetera. But here's Pete Hegseth trying to justify the military being deployed. And again, this is without the ask of any California officials, not the governor, not the mayor of LA, not the police commissioner of LA. In fact, they're suing to have them leave, whether it's the federalization of the National Guard or the Marines.
This is Pete Hegseth with Pete Aguilar of California.
exactly what we're doing, and we're proud to do it. We're proud to do it.
10 U.S.C. of the U.S. Code 12406 as a legal basis that the president used cites 3 examples and circumstances for the guard: invasion by a foreign nation, rebellion or dangerous rebellion against the authority of the government of the United States, or the president is unable with regular forces to execute the laws of the United States. Which authority is triggered here to justify the use?
I don't know. You just read it yourself, and people can listen themselves, but it sounds like all 3 to me. If you've got millions of illegals and you don't know where they're coming from, they're waving flags from foreign countries and assaulting police officers and law enforcement officers.
All right, pause it. Go back. I want people to listen to these three things that he's saying, have been these 3 elements of the threshold that have supposedly been surpassed. Invasion by a foreign nation. I mean, we know what an invasion is. We know what a foreign nation is. It's a nation, right?
Yeah.
Like, we used to have a problem. We used to have a fear in this country of non-state actors. Terrorists who would attack who were non-state actors. That didn't mean that they didn't have a nationality. It meant that they were acting on their own. So there was a time in this country where we understood that you could be from a country but not be the country.
Right.
When it came to national security. Apparently, that's no longer the case.
But California used to be part of Mexico, so actually, if you think about it, it's been invaded since it was.
Yes,
it existed.
I mean, that's all true. But those folks who have come from Mexico, or parents who had come from Mexico, or grandparents who had come from Mexico, represent an invasion by Mexico no more than I represent an invasion of Vilnius, Lithuania, of this country.
I'm invading from Finland and Norway. We're coming for you, folks.
And you guys are known for this.
Oh, my gosh. We have a history. It's in our DNA. It's the whole Viking thing. I mean, you should measure my skull, see if I'm eligible for deportation.
A rebellion against the government.
Right.
The LAPD represent the Los Angeles government. We have heard from the mayor of Los Angeles. We have heard from the commissioner of the LAPD. We have heard from the governor of California. If they were not aware of a rebellion against them, maybe there's no rebellion. And the president unable with regular forces to execute the laws. 50, 75 people have been arrested by the LAPD for violent acts during the protest. In some instances, not even violent acts, just, standing in front of a car, which is a non-violent act unless you're getting hit by the car, which we've seen. But let's hear these again, because Hegseth says all 3.
That the president used cites 3 examples and circumstances for the guard: invasion by a foreign nation, rebellion or dangerous rebellion against the authority of the government of the United States, or the president is unable with regular forces to execute the laws of the United States. Which authority is triggered here to justify the use?
I don't know. You just read it yourself, and people can listen themselves, but it sounds like all 3 to me. If you've got millions of illegals and you don't know where they're coming from, they're waving flags from foreign countries and assaulting police officers and law enforcement officers.
Pause it. I'm sorry. Again, who are the millions of illegals waving flags? Is that what we're supposed to believe? Is that there's been millions of people on the street in LA and that they're all illegals?
I mean, if you're waving an Israel flag, I'm imagining that this applies to you, right? You can't be waving foreign flags in the United States of America.
Do people wave the Israeli flag in New York? Is that
in New York? I've seen a few. I'm going to report them to ICE.
I'm being facetious.
I know.
Go ahead.
I mean, Irish flags, Italian flags, all around here.
Confederate flags, some places.
Yeah, good point.
here to justify the use?
I don't know. You just read it yourself, and people can listen themselves, but it sounds like all three to me. If you've got millions of illegals and you don't know where they're coming from, they're waving flags from foreign countries and assaulting police officers and law enforcement officers. That's the problem.
The laws of the United States.
No, the governor of California is unable to execute the laws of the United States.
The president, you said all three apply.
The governor of the California has failed to protect his people, along with the mayor of Los Angeles, and so President Trump has said he will protect our agents, and our Guard and Marines are proud to do it.
The law also says, Mr. Secretary, that the orders for these purposes shall be issued through governors of the states.
You and I both know that President Trump has all the authorities necessary, and thankfully he's willing to do it on behalf of the citizens of Los Angeles, on behalf of our ICE agents, and behalf of our country.
We've also
got him there. I mean, that wasn't the question where he said that the governor is unable to faithfully execute the laws. That's not the threshold. That's what applies to the president. That's supposed to be able to give him this authority. There's just like, there's some confusion a little bit about the laws that are being used here, and I just want people to be clear about this. They haven't yet invoked the Insurrection Act, which seems to be something that they're like openly teasing, but it's more of like a break glass in case of an emergency situation, because that would supersede the Comitatus Act that we spoke about yesterday, which was like a Reconstruction era law that prevented the United States like military from federal military force from doing civilian law enforcement. But you can supersede that if you are going to invoke the Insurrection Act. Now, that would have applied to the active duty troops that Hegseth had tweeted out that they were going to deploy. If Trump invoked this thing called 10 USC 12406, that allows him to federalize the Guard, and typically you ask for the input of the governor, but you don't have to, as LBJ did in 1965 when he was trying to protect civil rights marchers. So Trump did it for the first time since then, but he hasn't gone all the way to invoke the Insurrection Act, which would be a huge escalation, and also would be difficult for them legally because they have to prove that there's an invasion and this is wartime for him to execute the Insurrection Act.
And my understanding is, and I'm not sure that what the specifics were in which LBJ under that authority federalized the National Guard to protect the marchers, or as much as federal authorities who were with the marchers. Because my understanding is that under that, the law you cited, the federal troops can only protect federal buildings. Yes. Or federal authorities who are attempting to do their work. So theoretically, the National Guard federalized could accompany ICE in this instance, in their pursuit of undocumented immigrants. That's what that law allows it to do. So, and that's where we're at. Yeah. And so, but
it's just such a narrow statute compared to like what the scale of what they're speaking about. They haven't done that yet.
Well, they're purposely trying to conflate the things.
Yes.
And even sending 700 Marines, where here's this picture of the National Guard. They completely were non-prepared for the National Guard, the 2,000 National Guards people that they deployed. They're sleeping outside under nothing. They're sleeping in just these rooms. They have no food. They have no supplies. And the idea that they needed to deploy another 700 Marines, ostensibly because they couldn't deploy other National Guardsmen quick enough, when there is nothing for these National Guardsmen to do at this point. Like, the speculation is like, what federal buildings remain that the Marines can protect? And here's the other thing. And I've heard this now from, we had an emailer who is, maybe I'll read this when we come back. But also a piece written by David Day and some on the ground reporting he did yesterday. We're talking about essentially a 5-block radius in Los Angeles, which in a place that is so sprawling, where like 20 minutes is, you can do a trip of 20 minutes like 12 times in LA, going from one end to the other, essentially. This is not a situation where like the entire city has to be on lockdown. Yesterday I said, 80% of LA isn't even aware of what's going on at any given moment because it's so removed. And this emailer corrected me and said, and despite the fact disagreeing with some of the other stuff that we had to say, 98% of LA has no idea what's going on at any given time. It's so isolated.
But the reason you all know about it, and you've probably seen the same image over and over again when you open your phone, is that the new corporate media in our lives that's affecting the way that we see the world is social media. We know from reporting with Cambridge Analytica and other things that these algorithms that Facebook, Meta, Instagram, right, Twitter now too, definitely use are there to incite outrage or strong reactions, and political content does well, especially if it's inflammatory on the way that these algorithms are designed. So there is like this local newsification of our social media right now that is contributing to the reactionary moment that we're in. And these tech oligarchs that are in bed with the Trump administration are a part of crafting their media companies, which is what they are at this point, to favor the narratives that benefit the candidates that they like. And there should be way more awareness about what is being shown to you and what isn't. It's the same almost in terms of like how people are absorbing it as editorial discretion on other news networks.
Why are these soldiers here? Because so ICE can raid a Home Depot for people who are just trying to, put some tiling in, and the community might get upset at them for that. We need to have troops on the ground for that. This entire thing is a Nazi-like lie to put people's attention on immigrants when everyone's lives have been destroyed by banks and capitalists and the investment class. Like, it's so transparent. We've already lived through this in world history. Why is this not so obvious to people?
But I mean, a decent amount of Trump voters voted to round up all immigrants. And
right,
that's what Stephen Miller's plan has always been. And part of the way that they will need to do that, if they're going to do that, is to have troops on the ground in every city. And you do not get to there from here without going through this.
And how do you get to there? How do you sell the public on getting to there? You call these people who are your neighbors, who are look at Home Depot looking for work, who are other Americans. They're Americans too. You make them into criminals. You demonize them. And that's what part of what the tech right is doing in concert with the administration. And we should be talking about it, I think, a little bit more.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.